The transition from physical life to the spiritual realm is not the dark ending many imagine. It is, in fact, the beginning of an extraordinary journey that starts the very moment the final breath is taken. In the first seconds after death, consciousness detaches from the physical body. There is no pain, no fear, only a feeling of indescribable lightness and a mental clarity far beyond any experience ever lived on Earth. What follows challenges our entire understanding of reality. The newly departed soul finds itself in an environment that may initially seem familiar, often an idealized version of places known during life. This happens because the spiritual mind still retains earthly references to ease adaptation. But we are not alone in this crucial moment. The first to greet us are those we loved most who passed before us. Grandparents, parents, dear friends, even pets appear to welcome us. They don't come just as a warm reception. They have a specific mission: to help us understand that life continues, just in a different dimension. Alongside these loved ones appear the spiritual guides, beings of light who chose to accompany us on our evolutionary journey. They are not strangers. In fact, they've known us far longer than we can imagine. They were present throughout our earthly existence, whispering intuitions, offering protection, and preparing for this moment of reunion. Awakening on the astral plane isn't immediate for everyone. Some awaken right away. Others need a period of adaptation that can last days or even weeks in earthly time. During this time, they receive special care, much like recovering patients receive medical attention. The difference is that here, the healing is of the soul, not the body. The first steps in this new reality involve understanding that we are no longer limited by the physical laws we once knew. We can move through thought, communicate without words, and feel emotions with an intensity that surpasses any human experience. It is the true awakening of our spiritual nature, finally free from the limitations of matter. Now we arrive at one of the most profound and transformative moments of spiritual existence, the life review. There is no heavenly courtroom, no harsh judge with a scale deciding our fate. The most rigorous judgment we face comes from ourselves. Imagine watching the full movie of your life, but not as a passive spectator. You experience every moment through the eyes of all the people you touched. Literally. You feel the joy you brought to that child you helped on the street, but you also feel the pain you caused when you spoke in anger. It's an experience of compassion and understanding, far beyond what we can access while alive. This review doesn't happen linearly, as we're used to. It doesn't start at birth and end at death. Moments appear by theme, by lessons, by patterns we repeated throughout our life. It's as if our soul organizes a personalized presentation of the most important points of our earthly journey. The most surprising discovery is that our greatest lessons didn't come from moments of glory or success, but from hardship, pain, and apparent failure. That betrayal that devastated us, the loss we thought was unfair, the illness that made us suffer, all gain completely new meaning when seen from the spiritual perspective. The review also reveals connections we never imagined. We discover that people we considered strangers or even adversaries were part of our spiritual group, playing specific roles to help us grow. It's like realizing that actors who seemed like enemies on life's stage were actually our best friends behind the scenes. This process has no set time frame. Some complete the review quickly. Others need more time to fully process and understand their experiences. There's no rush in the spiritual world. Time works entirely differently, and each soul receives exactly what it needs for its evolution. The spiritual world is not a uniform place where everyone lives the same way. There is a complex and perfect organization, structured in levels and dimensions that directly reflect each soul's evolutionary state. It's like a great spiritual city, with different neighborhoods, each suited to its inhabitants. The lower levels, closer to Earth, house spirits who still carry dense vibrations, those attached to addictions, hatred, or who committed harmful actions in physical life. It's not an externally imposed punishment, but a natural consequence of the law of affinity. Just as oil and water separate naturally, similar vibrations attract on the spiritual plane. As we rise on the vibrational scale, we find increasingly luminous and harmonious dimensions. The intermediate levels are home to most ordinary people, those who lived lives with both successes and mistakes, who loved, worked, and did their best with the knowledge they had. These environments resemble Earth, but in idealized versions where there is no scarcity, illness, or violence. The higher levels are indescribable in human words. These are realms of pure light and love, inhabited by highly evolved spirits who dedicated multiple lifetimes to the service of the common good. These beings radiate a wisdom and compassion that transcends our current understanding. Many choose to work as guides and mentors to less evolved souls. The transition between levels is neither automatic nor forced. Each spirit naturally gravitates to the dimension that matches its current vibrational state. It's impossible to fake or force entry into a higher level. Vibration is like a spiritual fingerprint that cannot be masked. Interestingly, these levels are not static. A spirit can evolve and ascend to higher dimensions through learning, service, and energy purification. Similarly, negative behavior can cause a soul to descend to denser levels, though this is always temporary and correctable through genuine repentance and a change of attitude. The pressing question, what do the dead do all day? The answer might surprise you. Life on the spiritual plane is much more active and dynamic than we imagine. Far from a passive existence floating on clouds, the departed maintain routines, have occupations, and participate in activities that promote their growth and collective well-being. In the intermediate levels of the spiritual world, there are true cities with architecture that blends the familiar with the impossible. There are schools where spirits study universal laws, hospitals where wounded souls receive energetic treatment, laboratories where ways to help humanity are researched, and even art centers where creativity flourishes without the limitations of physical matter. Work in the spiritual plane is not a burdensome obligation, but a natural expression of each soul's purpose. Disincarnated doctors continue to heal, but now they work with subtle energies and treat traumas that go beyond the physical body. Earthly teachers become spiritual instructors, teaching newcomers about the laws that govern the new reality. Artists create works of incomparable beauty that inspire both spirits and the living through dreams. Personal relationships also continue, but on a much deeper level. Spiritual families reunite, true friendships are resumed, and genuine love blossoms without the complications of earthly egos. Many spirits form working groups with kindred souls, developing projects that benefit multiple dimensions of existence. There is also time for leisure and contemplation. Spiritual gardens of indescribable beauty offer spaces for reflection and meditation. Cosmic libraries hold all universal knowledge, accessible to those prepared to understand it. Music centers produce celestial harmonies that heal and raise the vibrations of all who listen. A fascinating aspect is that many spirits maintain hobbies and interests they had in life, but can now explore them without physical or financial limitations. A pianist can play instruments that exist only in the spiritual realm, producing music that touches the soul directly. A gardener can cultivate flowers that change color according to the emotions of those who admire them. Now let's touch on a subject that sparks both curiosity and skepticism. How do the dead communicate with us? The answer is, in much subtler and more constant ways than we imagine. Communication between dimensions happens all the time, but our earthly rational mind often filters or ignores these signals. Spirits have not lost the love they felt for us while alive. In fact, that love has intensified and purified. They remain present in our lives, trying to guide, comfort, and protect us. The challenge lies in the vibrational frequency difference between the worlds. The most common method of communication is through dreams. During sleep, our conscious mind relaxes and allows information from other dimensions to reach us. That vivid dream of your deceased grandfather was not a product of your imagination. It was a real encounter. Spirits use these moments to send messages of love, guidance, or simply to show us they are well. Signs in the physical world are also real and intentional. Flickering lights without a clear cause, electronic devices turning on by themselves, objects falling or moving, These phenomena occur because spirits can manipulate electromagnetic fields when they concentrate their energy intensely enough. They choose these signs knowing they will capture our attention. Inexplicable scents in the air, especially those associated with the deceased person, are another common form of communication. The sense of smell is directly connected to emotional memory, making it an effective channel for conveying spiritual presence. When you smell your late mother's perfume without any source, she truly is near. Intuition and sudden thoughts are also vehicles for spiritual communication. That idea that comes out of nowhere, the solution to a problem that appears suddenly, the impulse to call someone at the right moment. These are often whispers from beloved spirits who know our lives and want to help us. Why can some people communicate more easily than others? The answer lies in a combination of factors: the spirit's evolutionary level, the strength of the emotional bond with the living, the sensitivity of the incarnated person, and the circumstances of the moment. More evolved spirits have greater mastery over the energies required for communication, while more sensitive people pick up on these signs more easily. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had an experience that you believe was communication from someone who has passed? Share it in the comments. Your story could help others recognize the signs they receive. Every account is important in helping us better understand this connection between worlds. Death is not retirement. In fact, it is the beginning of an even more active phase of existence, where spirits take on responsibilities far beyond what they could achieve when limited by a physical body. Each disincarnate, according to their evolutionary level and abilities developed in life, receives or chooses specific missions that benefit both the spiritual and earthly worlds. There is an organized hierarchy of spiritual work that functions like a great cosmic corporation. Spirit doctors form rescue teams that operate in earthly hospitals, positively influencing treatments and inspiring healthcare professionals. They work behind the scenes, strengthening doctors' intuition during complex surgeries or guiding the discovery of new treatments through sudden insights. There is also a specialized department for protection and rescue. Guardian spirits work tirelessly to prevent accidents, guide people in moments of danger, and provide emotional strength during crises. They cannot drastically interfere with human free will, but they act within the limits allowed by universal laws. That instinctive braking that avoided an accident, the sudden urge not to enter an elevator that later malfunctioned, these are real interventions by these protectors. Consolation work is another fundamental mission. Spirits specialized in emotional healing accompany those going through loss, depression, or deep trauma. They send waves of peace and hope, especially during the night when mental resistance is lower and receptivity is higher. Many people report feeling an inexplicable sense of relief. After nights of intense anguish, this is the silent work of these consolers. There are also missionary spirits dedicated to the spiritual growth of humanity. They inspire religious leaders, spiritual writers, speakers, and all those who spread knowledge about life after death. They work to expand human consciousness about spiritual reality, preparing humanity for a broader understanding of existence. One of the most touching missions is that of spirits who choose to accompany special children, those with disabilities or serious illnesses. These guardians dedicate all their energy to offering comfort, protection, and unconditional love to little ones who came to Earth with specific learning challenges. Most impressive is that many of these working spirits were ordinary people in life. They didn't need to be saints or enlightened beings. Dedication to service, genuine love for others, and the desire to contribute to a better world are enough qualifications to assume these sacred missions in the spiritual realm. Spiritual evolution doesn't stop. With death it accelerates. Free from the limitations and distractions of the physical world, the spirit can fully focus on its growth and refinement. It's like a student who finally gains access to a universal library after years of being limited to just a few books. Learning in the spiritual plane happens much more efficiently than on Earth. There are no bad teachers, outdated materials, or time constraints. Knowledge is transmitted directly from mind to mind through processes our human language cannot adequately describe. It's like downloading a complete file instantly instead of reading it page by page. One of the first stages of evolution involves healing emotional traumas accumulated during earthly life. Spirits specialized in spiritual therapy work with newly arrived souls, helping them overcome sorrows, fears, and negative patterns they carried from Earth. This process may take varying time, depending on the depth of the spiritual wounds. After initial healing, the spirit undergoes progressive stages of consciousness expansion. They begin to understand universal laws that govern existence, such as karma, reincarnation, and the interconnection of all life forms. It's as if veils are lifted from the eyes, revealing a reality far broader and more complex than they imagined. The development of spiritual capacities is another fascinating aspect of posthumous evolution. Abilities such as clairvoyance, telepathy, astral travel, and subtle energy manipulation are gradually developed. More advanced spirits can temporarily materialize, influence physical events, and even assume multiple forms simultaneously. But we don't have to wait for death to accelerate our spiritual evolution. We can raise our vibration and expand our consciousness while still alive, creating a deeper connection with these higher dimensions. If you want to experience this accelerated growth and learn to tune your frequency with higher energies, I invite you to join the Quantum Thinking Challenge, a 21-day program where you will reprogram your mind through conscious gratitude, raise your vibration, and unlock your full energetic potential. Access it in the pinned first comment. Compassion and unconditional love are qualities that naturally expand during spiritual evolution. The more the spirit grows, the more it understands the fundamental unity of all existence. Prejudices, judgments, and artificial separations simply vanish when one realizes we are all part of the same divine essence. Many spirits choose to study specific areas of universal knowledge. Some specialize in healing, others in education, art, or cosmic science. There are unimaginably advanced spiritual universities where the creation of worlds, the evolution of species, and the deepest mysteries of existence are studied. Death is not retirement. In fact, it is the beginning of an even more active phase of existence, where spirits take on responsibilities far beyond what they could accomplish when limited by a physical body. Each disincarnate spirit, according to their evolutionary level and life-developed capabilities, receives or chooses specific missions that benefit both the spiritual and earthly realms. There is an organized hierarchy of spiritual work that functions like a vast cosmic corporation. Spirit doctors form emergency teams that operate in earthly hospitals, positively influencing treatments and inspiring healthcare professionals. They work behind the scenes, strengthening doctors' intuition during complex surgeries or guiding new medical discoveries through sudden insights. Educator spirits have not abandoned their vocation after death. On the contrary, they now have access to universal knowledge and can inspire teachers, researchers, and students far more effectively. That revolutionary scientific discovery, the brilliant solution an inventor finds, or the flash of clarity a student experiences during an exam array, often the result of these invisible mentors' influence. There is also a specialized department for protection and rescue. Guardian spirits work tirelessly to prevent accidents, guide people in moments of danger, and provide emotional strength during crises. They cannot drastically interfere with human free will, but they act within the limits allowed by universal laws. That instinctive braking that avoided an accident, the sudden urge not to enter the elevator that later malfunctioned, these are real interventions from protectors. Consolation work is another fundamental mission. Spirits specialized in emotional healing accompany those going through grief, depression, or deep trauma. They send waves of peace and hope, especially during the night when mental resistance is lower and receptivity is higher. Many people report feeling an inexplicable sense of relief after nights of intense anguish. This is the silent work of these consolers. There are also missionary spirits dedicated to the spiritual growth of humanity. They inspire religious leaders, spiritual writers, speakers, and anyone who spreads knowledge about life after death. They work to expand human consciousness about spiritual reality, preparing humanity for a broader understanding of existence. One of the most touching missions is that of spirits who choose to accompany special children, those with disabilities or serious illnesses. These guardians dedicate all their energy to offering comfort, protection, and unconditional love to little ones who came to Earth with specific learning challenges. Most impressive is that many of these working spirits were ordinary people in life. They didn't need to be saints or enlightened beings. Dedication to service, genuine love for others, and the desire to contribute to a better world are enough qualifications to assume these sacred missions in the spiritual realm. Spiritual evolution does not stop with death, it accelerates. Freed from the limitations and distractions of the physical world, the spirit can fully focus on growth and refinement. It's like a student who finally gains access to a universal library after years of being limited to a few books. Learning in the spiritual plane occurs much more efficiently than on Earth. There are no poor teachers, outdated materials, or time constraints. Knowledge is transmitted directly from mind to mind through processes our human language cannot adequately describe. It's like downloading a complete file instantly rather than reading it page by page. One of the first stages of evolution involves healing emotional traumas accumulated during earthly life. Spirits specialized in spiritual therapy work with newly arrived souls, helping them overcome sorrows, fears, and negative patterns they carried from Earth. This process may take varying time depending on the depth of the spiritual wounds. After the initial healing, the spirit progresses through stages of expanded consciousness. They begin to understand the universal laws that govern existence, such as karma, reincarnation, and the interconnectedness of all life forms. It's as if veils are lifted from the eyes, revealing a much broader and more complex reality. The development of spiritual capacities is another fascinating aspect of posthumous evolution. Abilities such as clairvoyance, telepathy, astral travel, and the manipulation of subtle energies are gradually developed. More advanced spirits can temporarily materialize, influence physical events, and even assume multiple forms simultaneously. Compassion and unconditional love are qualities that naturally expand during spiritual evolution. The more the spirit grows, the more it understands the fundamental unity of all existence. Prejudices, judgments, and artificial separations simply vanish when one realizes that we are all part of the same divine essence. Many spirits choose to study specific areas of universal knowledge. Some specialize in healing, others in education, art, or cosmic science. There are unimaginably advanced spiritual universities where the creation of worlds, the evolution of species, and the deepest mysteries of existence are studied. The most beautiful aspect of spiritual evolution is that it never ends. Even highly evolved spirits continue to grow, discovering new dimensions of reality and expanding their capacity to love and serve. The evolutionary journey is infinite, always offering new horizons to explore. Not all spirits make a smooth transition to the spiritual world. Some become trapped in an intermediate zone between life and death, creating situations that can affect both them and the living. These are the lost spirits, and their stories reveal important aspects about the nature of death and consciousness. Excessive attachment to the material world is one of the main causes of this imprisonment. Spirits who dedicated their entire earthly existence to the accumulation of wealth, power, or physical pleasures simply cannot accept that these things no longer exist for them. They wander the places they frequented in life, desperately trying to interact with a world that no longer recognizes them. Traumatic or sudden deaths can also cause spiritual confusion. Victims of accidents, murders, or suicides sometimes do not immediately realize they have died. They continue trying to live their normal routines, not understanding why no one sees them or responds to their attempts at communication. It is a desperate situation that can last for years in earthly time. Addictions and obsessions create another type of spiritual prison. Disembodied alcoholics continue to feel the need for alcohol, drug addicts still experience cravings, compulsive gamblers remain obsessed with betting. These spirits often approach living people who share the same addictions, intensifying the destructive impulses through an invisible but real influence. Intense feelings of guilt, remorse, or revenge also keep spirits trapped. Those who committed serious crimes or caused great suffering may refuse to accept forgiveness and the opportunity for regeneration. They prefer to punish themselves eternally, creating a personal hell that no external force could impose. Fear is another factor that prevents the natural transition. Spirits raised in religions that preach eternal punishment may be so terrified of divine judgment that they prefer to hide in the shadows rather than face what they believe to be inevitable condemnation. Ironically, this fear prevents them from discovering that divine love and mercy surpass any human expectation. There are specialized teams for rescuing these lost spirits. Formed by evolved souls and experienced guides, these teams work with infinite patience to convince the lost to accept help. They use different approaches, sometimes appearing as familiar figures from the spirit's past, other times as pure light that conveys unconditional love. The rescue process is not forced. Every soul has the right to choose when it is ready to move forward. Some accept help quickly, others resist for decades or even centuries. But help is never withdrawn. There is always someone patiently waiting to guide them to the light when they finally decide to accept. Now comes the preparation for the return. Reincarnation is not a random process where souls are simply thrown back to Earth. It is a meticulous planning process that involves deep study, careful analysis, and conscious decisions made in collaboration with highly evolved spiritual guides. It is like preparing for a complex journey to a challenging destination where every detail must be considered. The first step in reincarnation planning is the complete analysis of previous lives. The spirit, together with its mentors, examines which lessons were learned, which negative patterns still need to be overcome, and which qualities should be developed. It is a brutally honest self-assessment process that determines the goals of the next incarnation. The choice of family is not a coincidence. The spirit selects parents who will offer the exact conditions, positive and negative, necessary for its growth. Sometimes it chooses loving families to develop self-esteem and security. Other times, it opts for challenging situations to strengthen the personality and overcome specific limitations. Each family offers a unique set of learning opportunities. The physical body is also consciously chosen. Physical characteristics, genetic predispositions, natural talents, and even limitations are selected according to spiritual goals. A spirit may choose a body with a disability to develop humility and compassion, or a healthy and attractive body to learn about responsibility and the proper use of received gifts. Socioeconomic circumstances are part of the plan. Being born into a rich or poor family, in a developed or developing country, in a time of peace or war, all these are deliberately chosen conditions to provide specific experiences. Wealth can teach about social responsibility, poverty about perseverance, and appreciation for simple things. The main relationships of the future life are also pre-established. Spiritual contracts are made with other souls who will play important roles: parents, spouses, children, best friends, and even enemies. Yes, our greatest earthly adversaries are often friendly souls who agreed to play difficult roles to help us grow. One of the greatest difficulties in understanding life after death lies in our limited perception of time. On Earth, we are slaves to the clock, measuring everything in seconds, minutes, hours, years. But in the spiritual world, time does not exist as we know it. It is a revelation that completely transforms our understanding of eternity and existence. For a spirit, 1,000 Earth years may feel like a brief moment, while an intense experience can seem to last for ages. Time is perceived through the density of experiences, not by the rotation of planets or the movement of clock hands. It's like the difference between a dream that feels like hours but happens in minutes and a minute of pain that feels eternal. This different perception of time explains many mysteries about spiritual communication. When a deceased loved one appears in a dream saying they just arrived, they may be referring to a death that happened decades ago in earthly time. For them, the transition was truly recent, as their consciousness is no longer limited by linear chronology. Eternity in the spiritual context doesn't mean infinite time as we imagine. It means existence outside of time, in a state where past, present, and future coexist simultaneously. Spirits can access memories of past lives with the same clarity as recent events, and they have perceptions of the future that transcend our understanding of premonition. For us, the incarnated, this timeless reality offers deep comfort. It means our deceased loved ones haven't been waiting for years for our reunion. They exist in a state where that reunion is already a present reality. The longing we feel is a one-sided experience. For them, the separation is just an illusion of consciousness limited by physical time. Understanding spiritual timelessness also changes our perspective on urgency and haste in earthly life. Spiritual goals have no expiration date. A lesson not learned in this life will be resumed in the next. A true love is not lost with death. It continues to exist in eternal time. A good deed is not wasted if we don't see immediate results. Its effects unfold across dimensions that transcend our limited temporal perception. We come to the end of this journey with a revelation that will change your perception of life. The dead do not merely exist in a parallel dimension passively observing our existence. They are active participants in earthly reality, influencing events, inspiring decisions, and shaping the course of human history in ways we rarely recognize. The influence of disincarnated spirits on Earth is constant and multifaceted. Major scientific discoveries often receive spiritual inspiration. Inventors report revealing dreams, scientists have sudden insights that revolutionize their fields. Artists create works that transcend their conscious abilities. Behind these human achievements, there are teams of specialized spirits working tirelessly to accelerate humanity's progress. On a personal level, each of us has an invisible network of spiritual support. Deceased grandparents continue to protect grandchildren. Disincarnated parents guide their children through intuition. Friends who have passed send signs of encouragement in our toughest moments. That right decision we made, out of nowhere, the opportunity that appeared at the exact moment, the danger we narrowly avoided, are often the results of carefully orchestrated spiritual interventions. Spiritual protection is much more active than we imagine. There are organized groups of guardian spirits who work specifically to prevent unnecessary tragedies. They cannot override someone's destiny or drastically interfere with free will, but they act within the limits permitted by universal laws. Accidents that could have been fatal become mere scares. Illnesses that could be terminal respond inexplicably to treatment. The world of business and politics is also influenced spiritually. Enlightened leaders are often inspired by disincarnated mentors who foresee the long-term consequences of certain decisions. Entrepreneurs receive insights about innovations that will benefit humanity. Honest politicians are guided on public policies that will promote greater social justice. There is also the aspect of divine justice operating through spiritual influence. People who cause a lot of unnecessary suffering often encounter inexplicable obstacles on their destructive paths. It is not revenge, but a form of collective protection where evolved spirits create situations that limit the potential harm of malicious individuals. The influence of the dead even extends to the natural world. Spirits connected to environmental protection work to inspire conservation movements, influence government decisions about preservation, and even mitigate natural disasters when possible. That rain that came just in time to fight a fire, the sudden wind change that diverted a hurricane from a city, are not always mere meteorological coincidences. The most impressive thing is discovering that many of the synchronicities we experience in life are orchestrated by our deceased loved ones. They know our future paths and work behind the scenes to create meaningful encounters, precise opportunities, and even to unite us with the right people at the right time. That chance meeting that changed your life may have been the result of months of spiritual planning. This reality invites us to a new way of living, aware that we are not alone, grateful for the invisible protection we receive, attentive to the signs and guidance that come to us, and confident that there is a greater purpose being fulfilled through our existence. Death does not separate us from those we love. It only changes the way they express their love and care for us. Life continues in all its dimensions, interconnected and eternal. And now you know, the dead are not resting in peace. They are actively working so that we, the living, can find our own peace and fulfill our higher purposes in this infinite journey of consciousness.